Hey everyone, welcome back to another Character Corner. I know it's been a while, but this time we're going to tackle Darktail. This character was picked out on DeviantArt by different people who watch me and come over to my page there. My DeviantArt is called Tiger Lily Studios. If you'd like to sometimes vote on pieces of art I draw and analyses I do, if you have an opinion there. So that's awesome. Thank you guys. I picked out a really cool one. It's a Darktail. Honestly, I'm just going to give my opinions here, and then I'm also going to talk about a little bit how I designed Darktail, and 1 star in this piece as well. So let's talk about Darktail. A Vision of Shadows as a whole, in my opinion, that's the arc Darktail is featured in, is probably maybe borderline my least favorite arc in this series. I think New Prophecy beats it out just by a little bit. But I found Vision of Shadows overall lacking. The only saving grace in that arc to me is Darktail himself. Darktail, I think, might be one of the best villains. The Broken Code, I think, is shaping up to maybe be the best arc yet. But A Vision of Shadows, I think, actually had the potential to be better. If they had simply kept Darktail around probably a little bit longer. Darktail really dies before he becomes something better than, what he turned out to be. But yeah, I really like Darktail. I also read the arc before the Super Edition. So I knew immediately, you get this feeling off of Darktail like, he's probably bad news. But I really love his manipulative edge there. As you know me, I really love manipulative villains. I think they're awesome. And while I think Soul gets pinned with the intelligence villain aspect, I actually think Darktail was pretty smart, honestly. I think he doesn't always get that because he's also very much a killer, but he also is very intelligent, and I like that about him. He's very manipulative, getting all of Shadow Clan to basically fall on his side, through intimidation somewhat, but he basically didn't have to manipulate. Like, he manipulated Needletail and the other young Shadow Clan cats, but he didn't actually, intimidate them, really. He just was that kind of cat. He was pretty charismatic and pretty smart and good at manipulating cats. And that's what I find appealing about him. It's very interesting because, and what he offers is somewhat real. He does offer, an interesting society with pretty much no rules, and what he's saying isn't a lie as far as what he was promising those young apprentices at the time. He just also didn't tell them he planned to take over the clans as a whole, or his own backstory. But in that way, it's sort of interesting that he's manipulative, but he is somewhat honest. It's overall really, really interesting. It makes for a good villain. I also really like Darktail's backstory. His connection to 1 star, while I was really shocked about, I was totally floored. And the death scene at the end was awesome. It's so cool. That's one of the best moments in Warriors, I think. It's a good moment. Just father and son drowning each other in the lake. It's totally kick butt. It felt like something you'd read in, like, the first arc of Warriors, or like, it felt like that kind of, level of, whoa, it's cool. I liked it. And I liked his backstory too, because we don't get to know 1 star that much. We just sort of have this nice perception of 1 star. You can't do an analysis on Darktail without 1 star. Sorry about that. But, we see 1 star through Firestar's eyes. Basically. After that, we kind of switch perspectives and he's a lot different. And while some people didn't like that, it kind of makes sense because now we're suddenly not viewing 1 Tail through a friend. On top of the fact that 1 star changes a lot of his personality in order to be a better leader. Like 1 star, we didn't really know him. He just bonded really fast with Firestar. I like that there was more development on his part. That he wasn't always so great. And, I also think it would be really cool, too. The graphic novel that's coming out in June, which I'm super excited about, Winds of Change. I've been wanting a Mudclaw novella since I started reading these series. So having a graphic novel is going to be awesome. That's even better in my opinion. The graphic novel's been great. But back to One Star. I'm hoping they develop maybe One Star a little bit better in that book as well. Because the series itself paints Mudclaw to be a good guy. At least in some respect. So I kind of hope that they do something to, to work out One Star a bit more too. But, it's interesting that One Star didn't even want his son that's kind of like half clan. It's kind of odd, but at the same time I can kind of get it. He would have been really embarrassed, that he had a half clan cat, and Darktail just never forgot it. And I like that because I feel like so many villains and warriors are just kind of evil because they're ambitious. Take Tiger Star. Tiger Star isn't really, I don't know. We know from his novella, he didn't actually have any real Dark Force training until, Maple Shade came and whispered in his ear a little bit. Toward the end or something, of his life almost. Right before he became leader of Shadow Clan. Just a little. Not a lot. Why were you bad, Tiger Star? I get, he had a tough mentor. And Thistleclaw, sure, but, ambition blinds him for sure, but there's no real concrete, I don't know. I don't feel it from him. And then Scourge is, Scourge. He's cool, but, And then you have Hawkfrost, who just dies before he does anything of really any worth, and then, Soul gets kicked to the curb before he does anything of any worth, and Ashfur is arguably probably on par with Darktail as far as a good backstory and a good reason to be a bad guy. I actually do understand why Soul wanted to be evil, but he just never really does anything with it, so it feels worthless. Whereas I feel like Darktail actually does something. Darktail was hurt as a kid, abandoned. It didn't help that his mother encouraged him. And then he spends his whole life trying to destroy the clans, but they left, so he can't find them. So then he finds SkyClan, and he's like, cool. And I love his manipulation tactics. He's a smart cat. He manipulates Hawkwing and, weasels his way in and out and gets in his head, and I love it because I knew how it was going to go because I read Hawkwing's journey, after I read Vision of Shadows, because I wanted to understand the arc first before I got the super editions for that arc. But man, he was so good. I can honestly see if I read that super edition before I read the arc, I'd have no idea, because he was just really, really good. I think at some point it would have hit me, but when I first met him, I wouldn't have guessed it. Which is a good villain. I would say that usually I'm pretty good at picking out a villain, but right away I wouldn't have guessed it, I don't think. I think partway through I would have been And I like that because it's a well-written villain, honestly. Darktail, I think the problem with Vision of Shadows isn't Darktail or the kin. I think it's the fact that Darktail and the kin weren't through the whole book. Darktail actually, I believe, has the highest death count, which is amazing because everyone always thinks of, the baddest guy as, Tiger Star, because he's iconic, or Scourge, because he's so crazy and creepy little thing. But Darktail, I believe, has the highest death count if you count all those cats he went and drowned that wanted to leave and never came back. Beanos and Lion Eye. And then, Dawn Pelt. And then you've got... he killed Needletail and Rain and all these cats, and, that's a lot. I believe he has the most, if I remember correct. I think it's over 8 cats when I counted, which is just, that's incredible. Crazy. But anyway, those are basically some of my thoughts on Darktail. Basically, I think he's honestly probably one of the best villains in the entirety of Warrior Cats. And I'm really, really glad to see more arcs are taking the villains through the whole arc now, instead of just letting them have 3 books or 4 books and then finding more villains to fill it up. I'm really, really glad they're changing that tactic because it's working. Because had Darktail been a presence through the whole story, and killed even more cats, I would have really felt like the stakes were worse and I wouldn't have been bored by SkyClan drama. But anyway, that sums up my thoughts on him. I like Darktail a lot as a villain. I'm going to go through some of my quick little drawing techniques of Darktail. Yeah, I see a lot of different art pieces for Darktail. You know, I basically go off of how he's described in the books. You know, he's got like, he's mostly white, black and white cat with blue eyes. You know, they're black tail, obviously, and then splotches around his eyeballs. But I like to give him a lot of Wing Clan look to him. And when I draw Wing Clan cats, I tend to draw them like long legs and short hair. And usually I give them pretty long tails because of balance. Kind of like Tall Tail has a long tail, like Tall Star. I like to give them long tails. So that's kind of how I basically work out Darktail shapes. And One Star is basically that's very similar. Except he's a different color. He's got that like... I usually draw One Star with like a light golden dusty kind of brown gold color. That's kind of just a little stripey. And then, of course, I always had his little whisker thing that sticks out. I think he's the only cat I ever draw whiskers on, but that's basically how I break down their look. Obviously, very Wing Clan, you can see that. Whereas when I draw like a ThunderClan cat, I usually go for fluffy and, you know, thick manes and big shoulders. And then RiverClan, I usually draw kind of graceful, long hair, but more like feathered. And then ShadowClan, I always draw kind of like ThunderClan, but a little bit messier. Usually. Unless it's a character that I'm like, yeah, that's probably how they would look. But anyway, that breaks down my thoughts and my design. I hope you guys really enjoyed this character corner. Please remember to like and subscribe. And also check out my DeviantArt and my Pinterest and everything. And I'll have more quizzes up on DeviantArt in the future. So you guys might get to vote on another character corner that I am mixed, like, you know, about that I'm not sure which one I want to do. And I'll be back later. Bye, guys.